Should be coming up here with the live soon. Yep. I'm ready. And what are they giving me here? Updating our watches, I guess. Okay. Get this shared. Not sure if I'm up just yet, but I'm gonna get this written out here. Join me for an update on today's approaching storms. Exclamation point, because we're excited about weather. All right, let me make sure I'm up here. Refresh. Not quite, not quite. Oh, there we go. Okay, now it's showing. Gotcha. Very, very nice. All right, so for everybody who has joined me here on Facebook Live, just giving a quick update. This is the time period where we knew the storms would start to pick up, and we've started to get the watches being issued for some of our Pine Belt counties, the tornado watches. I'll go ahead and show that right here. I know it says dense fog advisory for whatever reason, but those are actually tornado watches. Now, whenever this happens, I always get an influx of messages asking, generally with kind of a note of panic in them, that these were issued, that blah, blah, blah. But watches doesn't mean anything more than what we've been saying all week long and what I said all morning long today. It's just that we know thunderstorms are coming and they do have the potential for severe weather. It's the warnings we need to watch out for. So this was totally expected and very likely going to extend these watches into the rest of the Pine Belt counties. It wouldn't surprise me if they left off the coastal ones, but as that starts to develop, we may see that inched eastward. We know that's coming. We know there's a threat of tornadoes. It's the warnings we really need to watch out for right now. So let's take a look at that severe threat. Basically picking up from about now until around noon, with our biggest threats being straight line winds once again, spin up tornadoes possible as well, and small hail. Basically not quite a carbon copy of the system that we saw move in Monday night into Tuesday morning. If you remember, this is our second chance at severe weather for the work week. That one was a little bit more robust. I believe this one will be on the weaker side, and it does carry a lower chance of severe weather for the area. So right now that is at a level 2 across the board, with a level 3 risk just out of frame here as it picks up to the north of Jackson and to the east, going all the way up to North Mississippi, into about the Oxford area, and then into North Alabama. So biggest threats today, again, straight line winds, though we can't rule out an embedded tornado as the line moves in, but this line is very ragged, not quite as well put together as the last one. So here's that breakdown showing you threat by threat. Wind being the biggest threat, still only low, with hail being basically none to very low, and tornado threat very low to low, basically just not zero, especially as conditions seem to be improving for us. In respect to hail here, the entire area earlier was under that level 1 risk. They've since backed that off, which to me says we're looking at the potential for some weaker updrafts, which does bode well for the strength of the storms. At least this should make them weaker if you're not getting stronger updrafts. So if you find hail in the system that you're currently in, that's generally a good indicator that things are kind of going the wrong way. So hail is a good indicator of stronger storms in the area. We don't really get to the level of severe hail right now, or it's not expected. So if any of those warnings are issued, if hail starts falling in your area, if this storm line is approaching you and those warnings get issued, always a good idea just to go to that safe space. Better to be safe than sorry, as often, which is exactly why we did the first alert weather day today, to err on the side of caution. So your best safe spot, if you live in a 2-story house, that would be the ground floor. If you live in a house with a basement, that would be the basement floor. But if you don't have either of those, you just want to get as low and as interior as you possibly can. Get in that lowest level floor, whether that's a basement or just the ground floor, and get as interior as possible. That means all of these outside walls, these exterior walls, imagine that if part of that wall goes away, are you now seeing the outside? If you're in a room like that, you want to try to get more interior. You want to lose walls and still have walls around you. That's what really comes down to in tornado safety as these things are moving through. And again, that's a worst case scenario, direct hit kind of situation that you would be in at that point. So that's what we talk about, the safe space. That's why it's always good to know ahead of time where yours is, or be close to it as these storms are moving through, and we're just going to see that chance go up and up here over the next couple of hours. We just had severe thunderstorm warnings issued for Lawrence and Simpson. That's a little bit out of the viewing area, but really starting to approach and telling you we're going to start seeing those warnings. Severe thunderstorm warnings, unless they're particularly strong, very likely going to be waiting and watching for those tornado warnings to update on, but we will of course be updating social media and everything that we can from there. Barring any active tornado warnings, you may or may not see us here through the morning hours. But the chances are there, and as we look outside right now, you can see from Laurel Ford and Laurel here, it is low, dark clouds. Not actively raining, no lightning flashing in the distance, but it is warm at 65 degrees, and you've got a strong southerly wind at about 15 miles per hour. At this time of the day is pretty good. As we move over here to Circle C Tractor, you see it's still equally as gray, though not actively raining, though some rain has already fallen, just about 1/10 of an inch there. And we've seen some of our weather cameras around the Hattiesburg area looking damp, but no measurable rain had fallen by then. Looks a little damp here in Columbia as well, showing just 4/100ths of an inch. So again, nothing's really happened, nothing concerning is going on just yet in the Pine Belt, other than the fact that those watches have been issued and we're just waiting for those to be pushed further south. So doesn't mean anything more than we already knew, that this storm line is coming, and as it gets closer, we'll see our potential for strong storms and tornadoes to go up, but still going to be on the low to very low side. So right now, we've just got some spotty showers, and those are largely south of the Pine Belt, but starting to move in as we head through now until about 10 o'clock. I would say we have a chance of isolated storms popping up ahead of that line right here. The line itself is just now moving into the western end of the state and will make it through the area from about that 10 o'clock hour until lunchtime. So once it gets here, it will absolutely race through the area, and that's what's going to help kind of make things extra windy and make the storm, if you're in that line, kind of scary at the time. But once it's through, you're all good and things will start to improve. We'll actually see the sun by the end of the day, and it will be quite nice and mild before it really starts to cool down. But this is what's active right now. You can see all the scary watch looking things there. We're on the lookout for warnings, and we have two severe thunderstorm warnings just kind of a little north of the area, as we said. They do extend down right on the edges of our viewing area, pushing towards us there. We'll keep an eye out for any of these warnings and everything moving through. None seem to have any strong rotation or anything like that. So it's good so far. This did have a history of tornado warnings as it was moving through Arkansas earlier last night and into the very early morning hours. But since then, it has not had too much of that. The severe thunderstorm warnings are about the worst we've seen, so we'll keep an eye on it. So anyway, here's our hour-by-hour future cast. You can see looking pretty much like what our radar looks like right now, with the spotty showers in front, starting to see that higher chance of those isolated showers popping up. We'll see that really kind of maximize here over the next, hold on, let me back up. Doesn't look like it's moving on me now. There we go. For whatever reason, that model is frozen for those first two frames. But either way, we're seeing this line approaching us. I expect it'll be right on our the outskirts of our western end of the Pine Belt, right there up against Simpson and Lawrence County and Walthall County and those areas, pushing up against us about 10, and then here by noon, I don't know why it must be updating, it skipped everything in between. By noon, you can see what's left of that line, which was pretty ragged and broken to begin with, still holding on, still with some areas in there where you could see some problematic localized areas pushing through almost out of the area, and that's what will finally start to clear out. This one now running a little bit behind where it was earlier by about 30 minutes, so timing is still moving around, but still pretty pleased with it to put it kind of between now and about lunchtime. I don't expect we'll see too much more than that. Then as we head into tomorrow, you see all the rain that we ended up with today, not looking like much. Don't expect any flooding issues along with this. It is just moving too fast, and any pockets of heavy rain may try to get something going, but again, it's just moving too fast. Right now, though, our biggest thing is instability and rotation. We have very warm air, very unstable air that kind of lends energy to these storms. And there's rotation. Right there, you can see where the cold front is and where the warm front extends down, and in there is called the warm sector. And that's where if something does pop up, it has a pretty decent chance by itself, those isolated supercell type storms popping up and starting to rotate. So that's starting now and will go all the way up until that line catches us. Once the line catches us, it's going to be a straight line storm, and it's going to pass through fairly quickly, giving us some windy conditions. So today is a first alert weather day. It has been through all of sunrise. Very likely will be dropping off as we head through midday. It really depends on the timing and speed of these storms as they're pushing through, which we'll keep an eye on and update you over the next couple of hours. Once that's done, though, again, by lunchtime, we'll rapidly start seeing things improving. And by the end of the day, by sunset, we'll see clear skies and sunny conditions giving way to a clear night, which will eventually be quite frosty. It's going to lead us to a couple of cold starts. Upper 20s for tomorrow morning, low 30s and upper 20s for Sunday morning there, and still at freezing or below freezing for Monday. But that's when things really start to go the wrong direction on us, because we get a reinforcing front that's going to bring some showers and potentially some sleet/freezing rain very early Tuesday morning. It remains to be seen if that's going to happen. It's really going to be more of a novelty than anything else. But it's really those cold conditions, that Arctic air dropping us from 30 Tuesday morning to 14 for Wednesday morning with a high of 34. So with a low of 30 and a high of 34, we're going to be have areas below freezing or areas that don't even get above freezing, above 32 for several, potentially dozens of hours there, several hours. So hard freeze conditions moving in. We haven't been talking about that too much, but next week is looking brutally, even dangerously cold. But that's, of course, after everything that we're seeing today with the potential for those storms moving through. So that's all I've got so far. Again, we're just watching this kind of ramping up. Nothing has happened just yet, and nothing expected to, other than this line continuing to approach us, and we'll continue to watch for the development of isolated storms and then watch to see if any warnings are issued with that line. And if they are, you may see us on your TVs earlier than expected, but that'll just be to get that news out and try to keep everyone safe. So just looking at my comments here, everybody seems to be having a good time. Somebody asked where the line is now. It's pretty hard to tell where it is. The cold front itself, if I had to draw it, I'd say it's basically almost perpendicular to the state line here, or parallel, kind of goes that same curved shape there. So it's just now moving into the state. I would say Jackson will get that line here before too long. You can kind of see it's not all that far away, but it's just not as well defined as the last one. The last one you could see on the radar, just a huge thin bar of storms. This one a lot more patchy, but wherever those patches happen to grab onto a little bit extra moisture, you could see those problems popping up, those pockets of heavy rain, those pockets of small hail, and the potential for rotation in there. So let's see. Bad today, a couple people, no, not expecting it to be too bad, but anytime we have a threat of severe weather, it's always better to err on the side of caution. I know that's why some schools had decided to not have school, some did, and just advised their bus drivers to be safe. I can see it going either way. Really, with the wind moving in, that's the biggest thing you're watching, and of course those tornadoes, and that'll be something that's like a 1% chance if it happens. But even then, you know, it just takes one to really ruin your day. So always better to err on the side of caution when you can, and that's basically what we're doing today. So I will be here. We'll be checking things to make sure nothing goes off in an unexpected way, and stay tuned for updates. If you don't already have it, it's a good time to download our free app. Just search WDAM Weather on your Apple or Android device, and that way you can get those warnings for free. If you are geographically inside the warned box the National Weather Service sets, and your phone is set up that way, and the default setting is to allow for alerts, that you will be alerted to that quite loudly, in fact, with a nice little alert tone anytime you're in those warning boxes. And when you get those warnings, that's when you need to start heading towards that safe zone a little bit more quickly. And when the watches are issued, like we're seeing just now, that just reminds you to know where that is and maybe get a little bit closer to it, because things are starting to ramp up. Still only a low to very low risk, but we will continue to watch it. So stay tuned, and I will have more on this as it continues to develop and moves in. Thanks for joining us.